And as you can see, the lineup there with the South African Council of Churches, the SACC, which will be hosting a prayer service for Africa amid COVID-19 tomorrow afternoon. This forms part of a series of prayers to pray against the scourge of corruption linked to the pandemic in South Africa. The Council has dedicated the month of September to praying for an end to COVID-19 corruption under the theme, "Corruption is not our heritage." The main preacher tomorrow will be the Anglican Archbishop of Canterbury, Welby. The service will be broadcast on SABC television between 4 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. We're now joined by Dean Michael Weeder of the Anglican Church. A very good evening to you, Dean Weeder, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. So, first of all, are all churches and religions, including their members, invited to be part of this prayer service?
Thank you for the invitation. The service is convened by Archbishop Thabo, the Anglican Church, in conjunction with the SACC. But beyond that, it's an open invitation. All believers, it's of an interfaith identity. But everybody, even those who are not aligned to any faith association, are encouraged and most welcome to participate.
And just talk about the main objective for this one in particular tomorrow. We did mention that there is a common theme for the month of September, and it is aimed at obliterating corruption and all of its vestiges. But tomorrow's service, what will be particularly special about it?
The emphasis tomorrow is about the 150th anniversary of the Anglican Church in South Africa. So as much as we recognize it happened within a colonized economy and brutalized humanity, we also recognize our 150th anniversary is also happening within the context of the COVID-19 and the atrocities, particularly the corruption, both associated directly with the tender process, but also beyond that, and the complexities of how corruption has become a kind of almost accepted culture within our country.
Is that the reason behind the imagery and the symbolism of having a silent prayer service, for instance? Is that to denote the silence that you not only see in society, but dare I say amongst the church itself? Because the criticism has been that the church has taken far too long in lending its voice to the difficulties not only people are facing in navigating COVID-19, but the resultant tender corruption as well.
Look, I think we are not without our fault as a church. It has been said in the 1980s that we arrived late and out of breath. But we have a broader constituency of people that are of all political persuasions, and we need often to find a kind of middle ground, the way of compromise. But that is almost sometimes our default position, but the urgencies of our integrity, of how our country, the Commonwealth of Communities of South Africa, the way food security is really almost a wishful thinking amongst the larger part of South African. So we are forced to. We are compelled to be there in the way that we have tried within our best, within our limitations. But we are part of a greater army within civil society. And our prayer and our hope and our focus is to draw our people. You know, it's easy to say there's a lot of things wrong with our country. It's an easy way to verbalize it, but it's when we need to put feet on the ground. That is our appeal of conscience to the essentially good-hearted nature and justice-committed South Africans to gather forth in numbers.
But Dean, how do you intend to make an active citizen of people who have come to think that poverty, food insecurity, as you mentioned, joblessness, corruption is their heritage. I mean, we've been playing quite a number of stories from our colleagues in the Eastern Cape where people for decades have been drinking water from the same pool as animals, who have to wash their clothes there, who have to drink the same water. People who reached the ages of 90 without even having a title deal to their name, even though we talk about free RDP housing. People who are made to do work for them to survive, like spending hours in pits trying to work through waste, but saving government money, but not getting any of that money back. It's stolen through corruption.
Look, I think our people have been so brutalized that on the one hand, the reaction is overt violence, and the other is just passive too, because it seems like there's no hope. And I think it's particularly the religious community that has a mandate to speak out against it, to act against it, and to use all our means to draw attention to it. Because as long as people are able to go about unpunished, so part of the call of, particularly in this month, is you got to go to jail. There needs to be conviction. There needs to be a hasty revert to law. And even as I speak, we saw what happened in Bishop Lavis, the assassination of a top policeman. And that speaks to the high level of corruption and also cynical, wanton behavior of a cabal of co-opted and corrupted officials within the police force, within our civil service. And yet we also appeal to the higher morality that we know that the broader constituency of South Africa do not align themselves with corruption. And that is our appeal. And that is our statement that we're making as a church, knowing we are imperfect, but we also know that the God that we are convicted to follow compels us to respond in the way that we are, slow as it may be. We are coming to the trenches. And as Archbishop Tutu and Jongukulu Nungani and our present Archbishop, in alliance with the other members of the faith community, are using our standing within our community, within the land, to galvanize our people in terms of conscience, but also to get our bodies on the line.
Thank you so much.
Perhaps in a way that we haven't done so before in recent time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us and sharing your thoughts, Dean Michael Weeder of the Anglican Church, the SACC rather, organizing that protest march in support of those who's obviously suffered from COVID-19 and the corruption that's come with it, weakening the response for those who've badly needed the social and health aid. So SABC will be broadcasting that, as I mentioned, between 4 and 5:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.